This is a sort of gathering or a collection of works that are part of a conversation that I'm having about a landscape that's near to here in the North Pennines. It's come out of a residency that I've been doing with a physical geographer and geomorphologist at Durham University, and it's part of a Leverhulme Trust residency. His research is interested in peatlands and how they change over time now, not in the historical, but really kind of to do with things like weathering and looking at erosion. So I was very drawn to working with some of his research. Peatlands have been something that I've worked with now for several years. They offer me kind of a real way to engage with how things are changing so much, this sort of decomposing dead matter. There's just so many different dynamic shapes, forms, lines that are constantly moving day to day, week to week, hour to hour, depending on the weather that's happening there. The title for the show is A Lively Sense of Nature, which is kind of really about the kind of re-engagement with a landscape, and in this case, this landscape that's in the uplands in the North Pennines. The main piece in the show is this film here called A Child of Its Time, where I took my son Idris up to Moss Flats, which is the name of the site that Jeff Warburton is monitoring as part of his research with Durham. It was really a piece of kind of research really for another film that I want to do about this landscape that's really about a kind of very intense observation of this raw, rugged landscape that kind of is very otherworldly. So I was very interested in like what it would be like to take him to this site that I've been visiting that sort of asks me to look every time in a slightly different way. It was about me seeing and trying to capture the sort of playfulness of childhood and that moment of spontaneity of nature, and that's there for us all, I guess. All the works in this exhibition is kind of all around this one site and a kind of relationship, that intimate sort of inward relationship that I've built with this site over the months. And on Friday, I think the performance was about sort of seeing whether I could try and capture some of the eeriness or the sense of the place through 4 voices. Each one will represent either north, south, east or west, which is how I've laid out this gallery in terms of the site itself. It's like a graphic score, and they'll just be following this score through a certain framework of 4 different notes. So it'll sound hopefully quite raw, which is and sort of bare, but kind of hope it'll resonate something quite sort of beautiful.
The title of the show is Oversea. It's about the movement, a journey, like of distance, of departure. It's about the time that passes, and you create your past, or yeah. There are layers of history just piling up somewhere, and then also about discovering new places, and also places which maybe only exist in imagination, or which are like a kind of blurry memory. What I quite like is, or what I very often do, I just start working with material which is my very near surrounding. So friends sometimes donate materials to me, or I find materials in the skip and I just use it, or I find stuff on the street. So this kind of material then always like influences my work. One of the things I think like that's very basic to all my works, that I always like to play with the contrast of like materials, of time, of whatever. So like found objects are just like, there's not a high value to it. It's, yeah, just skip material. And then on the other hand side, I really enjoy the making of things, like fabricating, and like part of my work of like the last 2 years is I did a lot of casts in bronze and iron, kind of monuments, which refer to kind of socialist era of GDR, Yugoslavia. And it's also like a really old technique, which is, I like to bring even like the contemporary and then something like timeless casting like together, and just want to see how this actually, what kind of conversation will it start, and that's one of the questions. I think throughout the works I plan, or I'm thinking of for the show, they're mainly about like landscape, and then the absence of humans, and maybe some marks or traces of humans, like that they, like architecture, leftovers or decaying. I think one of the things which is throughout, like, or have most of the works in common is also like the point of like entropy, or there's always something like falling apart, and it's about the cycle of life where on the journey to final death that this is maybe a part in society or a topic in society which is still not really, it just does not really get that much space, and I think it's really interesting and really important actually, and maybe that's why I just always come back to that topic and focus on it. Just like there are powers that change from outside, and so it's, we are not in control, and that's I think also one of the points. On the one hand side, I maybe can take over control like in the everyday for a few things, but actually on the big scale there's nothing to control, and I think this is definitely one of the moments I'm interested in.